Everybody, welcome to the real United States and welcome back to our kitchen. And today I am going to do something with very American roots, and that is cornbread. Now, corn is something that is indigenous to the Americas and had been used as a grain and as a flour by the Native Americans for thousands of years before Europeans came to this hemisphere. So I guess I feel a special connection with cornbread and those sorts of products. Of course, we all love corn on the cob. I can't eat it anymore, but I used to love it. Now I'm happy if I just get it, like canned corn. But I can still eat cornbread. It's hard for me, but I can. But that's immaterial. It's still very nice. Now, you're going to hear all kind of different terms, but the ones that Verily and I usually use most commonly are cornbread and Johnny cake. And what we generally make, we call Johnny cake because we consider a cornbread that's sweetened a Johnny cake. Whereas in actuality, many purists will say that Johnny cake is a thinner batter, and you fry it on a flat top or in a skillet like a pancake. Okay, that's fine. At any rate, we are going to make a sweetened cornbread in the oven, and we bake that in cast iron. And I'm going to do it two ways here. I'm going to do it from scratch, and I'm going to do it from a box mix. All right, and I guess it doesn't really matter which I do first. So let's start with the scratch set. Now it's important, I think, in French term time, guys, and many of you have heard this, mise en place. Right here on the screen, mise en place, which means everything in its place. And there's two steps to that. All right, one is making sure you've got the stuff, all the ingredients. You don't want to get into this and find out, nuts, I don't have baking powder, right? So the first thing is, have I got milk? Have I got all the ingredients? Then the second part of mise en place is, okay, how much of each thing do I need? Get it measured out, in place, so that now when you go to cook, you don't got to worry about it. Many home cooks don't go to that trouble, and sometimes that'll come up and bite you. Obviously for camera, we make a special point to do it, but it's not uncommon for us to do it even off camera. So you're going to see here now is my mise en place, and on this side I've got for the scratch made, and here I have the ready mixed. All right, so let's start with our ingredients here for the scratch made. And what we've got is a cup and a half of flour. And I'm going to put this all down below, so if I screw it up, you'll have the correct ingredients down below. So there's a cup and a half of flour, and I think we got like 3/4 of a cup of cornmeal. This, incidentally, is the cornmeal, if you remember, from our episode at Y Mill, Old Y Mill, in Y Mill, Maryland. And that is the oldest operating grist mill in America, and it's been around for hundreds of years. So that is the cornmeal that we had bought there, and they're closed this time of year. Fortunately, we still had some on hand. But anyway, that is the grist meal ground, but you can use it from the grocery stores just the same. Now we've got some sugar, about 1/4 cup of sugar, and our baking powder, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I want to make sure I get all that in there. Okay. I just brought our cornmeal out to show you. We keep it in a little plastic jar to keep it safe. We have salt. And we have a cup of milk. I'm going to just give this a little poke. my dry ingredients before I start adding my, there we go. Now I put in my milk. A quarter cup of vegetable oil. Again, you want to make sure you got your mise en place, everything in place, because, you know, I got lots of olive oil, but I wasn't sure I had vegetable oil. And then 1 egg already beaten. And that's it. Everything goes in there and you just mix it together. You can do this with your spatula or a spoon. I like doing it with a whisk. It gives a little more, I think, a little more even mix. But often they say, you know, you could leave it lumpy. I don't care to. I like it to be a little more homogeneous. You do want to make sure that everything is moist, that you don't have dry spots in there. Again, in my opinion, I don't want lumps of dry stuff because it ain't going to cook proper. And as I said, all of these ingredients, this whole recipe, will be down below. Nothing fancy about it. And you will notice some little tiny lumps in this, I suppose. But it's all pretty well homogeneous throughout. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spoon that into a buttered cast iron frying pan, and you're going to notice it has a very well seasoned pan. It's nice and slick on the inside. My lovely assistant has been nice enough to butter them for me because I'm shiftless and lazy. Now fortunately for us, because we're going to do these in the same oven, both recipes call for the same temperature. Both the scratch made and the box made. And what we're trying to achieve here, by the way, just so you know, is we're going to find out which one's better. Okay? So I'm gonna manhandle that around so it's you know, kind of even in the pan. Okay? Now, that's it. Here is my box made. I'm going to show the name brand. This is pretty well ubiquitous in the United States. It's made in Saline, Michigan. There are other brands, of course, available. This was probably the biggest one. It's quite inexpensive. But I say you can pick this up at almost any grocery store in America. Cheap. Okay, so it's all, the box is folded, the paper inside is folded to keep it down. It's not glued shut or anything. It's kind of neat. Anyway, fresh bowl. That is all of your dry ingredients. Already put together. So you don't have to worry about it, you know. Then you got 1/3 cup of milk, and this is on the side of the box. And 1 beaten egg. Now, that's all the box calls for. Here's the caveat. You're going to get a fairly decent cornbread that way, but it ain't going to taste very sweet. Again, I like what I call Johnny cake, which is a little sweeter cornbread. So in one box, I put the same amount of sugar I put in the other one, 1/4 cup. That's it. So that's the only thing I add to it that doesn't call for on the box. And again, I just use the whisk to beat it up. You know, it looks largely the same. It's maybe a little more dark gold in color. And that's probably just because of the particular harvest of corn. The stuff in Y Mill was, I'm sure, locally grown corn there in Maryland. And this is, well, very likely locally grown corn from Michigan. So, you know, there might be a little color differences. They're agricultural products, they're organic things, they're going to be slightly different. And see, the batter seems a little thinner. But see, it looks very, very similar. Another greased, nice, smooth cast iron pan. And a different whisk, or a different spatula. I know, why the different spatula but use the same whisk? I don't know, folks. Because I had two spatulas, I didn't have two whisks. I don't know what to tell you. Sometimes I do things that don't make any sense to me even. So, but that is obviously a little thinner, because I didn't have to manhandle that to get it to flow out in the pan. So, that flowed out much easier. We're going to see how they both rise. This one I've done, you know, enough times. I know it's going to puff up real puffy. We'll see how the one from Scratch made. I've got my oven preheated to 400 degrees. You're going to stick these in depending on the humidity and you know, the ambient temperature and all that stuff for about, I don't know, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or I suppose if I could see, I could tell you. Makes this okay, 15 to 20 minutes. So, but you're going to want to, as you get it close to 15, you're going to want to test this with a probe, because you don't want it to go south on you. And no, the cast iron is not going to make it brown or get real dark on the bottom or anything. I bake pies in these. I cook cornbread in them. They're fine. They work great. So I'm just going to fire these in the oven. All right, that one's on the right, and the homemade's on the left. And if I can see my timer, I'm going to set that for, I'm going to try and set that for 15 minutes. And there we go. I guess it starts automatically. It does. Good deal. We'll be back in about 15 to 20 minutes. I'll pull these out of the oven and we'll take a look and maybe even a little taste. All right, our 15 minutes is up, and it was 15 instead of 20. And we've pulled our cornbread out. We're going to come down here and show you. This is our box mix. It's in the slightly smaller pan. And you're going to see that it has gotten quite a bit darker of the two. So, but it's not burned by any stretch of the imagination. It's just got a very, you know, light golden brown on it. Whereas the homemade, the scratch mix, if you will, they're both homemade, is a much paler mix. You know, it's very pale. It's the same color as the cornmeal, basically. It didn't seem to brown like the box mix did. So we're going to see. They're still, well, they just came out of a 400-degree oven. So, well, they're a little bit on the warmish side. So we'll get back in a few minutes. They're going to cool a little bit. They're going to shrink. This one's shrinking up a little bit, but still, you can see how much they puffed up. This one obviously puffed up a lot more. But then again, you don't know. The one that's been in the box, you know, you don't know how long that has been in the box, and the baking powder's already in it. It may have lost a little bit of its oomph. So anyway, we'll pull them out while they're still warm, but not scalding hot. Put a little butter on them. And I will give you at least my opinion, or Beverly will, on how they taste. We'll be right back. All right, so I cheated a little bit, folks. I wanted to hurry it up, so I figured they spent 15 minutes in the oven. Well, they spent 20 minutes in the garage, and it's December, and it's cold out there, and they're both cool to the touch. Just that quick. So I'm going to cut a little piece, and we'll see how it looks. I'm not going to cut a very big piece. Okay, this is the box mix. It's a little darker, and I don't have a pie server, so we're going to just take a little piece out with a knife to see how it turned out. So it's nice, it puffed up real good. Got a nice golden color to it. It's very soft and moist. Nice. Got just the right amount of sweetness. It's not cloyingly sweet. Remember, we added that 1/4 cup of sugar to this over what the box called for. So let's take a look at our other one. Now they're still warm, not terribly warm, but they're warm. Now cut more or less the same kind of a piece here. This one did come out so much paler, you know, which is fine. Got a nice golden color on the bottom. Again, beautiful, nice. It puffed up real well. Obviously. Puffed up more than the box mix, surprisingly, because it's a bigger diameter pan. So I'll take just a little bit. You know, actually, that would not have hurt that one to cook another 2 minutes. It's done, but just barely. But it is done, and it's got a nice, it doesn't seem to be quite as sweet, but nearly. Got a very nice soft texture. Sorry, folks. I leak. But that's quite nice. I think that, and I've been eating this for years and years and decades. But you know what? I think from now on, this is going to be my go-to choice. Yeah, it takes a little more, because you gotta make sure you got all these different ingredients. So it takes a little more effort, but yeah, seems like it's worth it, you know. Yeah, that's quite good. I like that very well. I like them both, but certainly if you've got the patience and the materials and the space for the materials, because not all of us do. So scratch made is just marginally nicer. And it helps if you can get it, you know, hand ground by the oldest grist mill in America. That might be a little bit of an edge versus using, you know, grocery store cornmeal. I'm just saying. Nothing, you know, it's maybe not a fair fight. Anyway, but certainly something that's about as American as you can get. And this was a staple amongst certainly, well, not only the American and the Native Americans, but then when the colonials came here, the settlers, and eventually the colonials, this became almost immediately a staple part of their diet because, you know, I mean, this will keep somewhat. And also, you got to realize in that period of time, what you and I would consider way too stale to eat, they would have thought was fine. As long as it wasn't spoiled or there wasn't no mold on it. You could always dip that in your tea and it would be fine, you know, it would sustain life. So with or without the sugar, manufactured sugar, obviously a very important part of the economy here in colonial America. So, but very popular amongst the European settlers here. So you can see why. It's tasty, it's nutritious, and it's relatively easy to make in a 18th century or 17th century oven, which was kind of crude by our standards today. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little visit with cornbread, about as American as our cuisine gets. And if you got questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. I love hearing from all of you. I try to get back to everybody I can. If you're new here, hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Consider picking subscribe and coming along for the adventure, because we got lots more to show you. And as always, folks, well, thank you for watching.